the worst part is that Philly might be hoping that he picks up that option, because if he doesn't, he has an extension that he is eligible for $270 million.
Oh.
$270 million. That would make him the second highest paid player in the NBA. James Harden isn't even the second best player on his team.
Yeah.
What is going on? I want to welcome you from Half Court for today, Wednesday, May 18th. I am your host, Sean Murphy, alongside my guy, Jeff Iafrate. Jeff, what's poppin', man? How you doing?
Oh, it's going good. And two things, actually. The best two words in basketball, Game 7.
Game
and you got two Game 7s on tonight. I'm excited.
Woo! Yeah, so as of recording this is coming out on a Wednesday, but as of recording, this will be the first Game 7s we have of the playoffs. Two Game 7s, Milwaukee and Boston, and then Phoenix and Dallas. So when you guys are watching this, congratulations to the Boston Celtics and the Phoenix Suns for both winning their Game 7s.
Let's sneak that in there.
Let's just sneak that in there nicely. But also alongside my guy, Troy Sergey. Troy, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Sean. Man, we're talking about Game 7s, but I can't get over the Game 6s of the past couple of days with, of course, Miami and Philadelphia, and then the big Boston-Milwaukee one on Friday night, along with Golden State and Memphis. Mm-hmm. So I'm still recovering from that awesome basketball that we watched from those games, and I'm definitely looking forward to later this afternoon and tonight, as of we're recording, to watch the Game 7s. So.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, so we have awesome playoff basketball to talk about. A lot of things to get into. One thing to note before the episode does start, this is being recorded on May 15th, so the NBA Draft Lottery will have already been done when this episode comes out. So congratulations to the Detroit Pistons landing the number 1 pick 2 years in a row.
Do that.
I'm just kidding. But in all seriousness, renege. That's punt. I did not say that. But anyway, I'm by the time this episode comes out, the lottery will have already happened. So instead of giving you more lottery preview coverage today, we're going to talk about what we do know, which is that playoff basketball is crazy. And this is from Half Court Reach, and every week we talk all things NBA basketball. If you like that, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, share with your friends, and comment in the comment section down below to join the From Half Court community. Also, did you know we had a TikTok? Be sure to follow us on TikTok as well. Be sure to follow my guy Troy at Troy Sergey44, my guy Jeff Iafrate at Jeff Iafrate, and then I got my Twitter handle right there at Sean F. Court. But with that, gentlemen, it's time to get into the NBA playoff festivities. So there were 2 playoff series that did conclude over the past week in both Golden State and Memphis, and also the Philadelphia-Miami series. First, I would be remiss if we did not talk about the collapse we saw in Philadelphia, as we saw for 2 years in a row a Philadelphia playmaking guard refuse to shoot the basketball in a closeout situation, do or die. Jeff, Troy, James Harden's washed. There's just no other way to put it. He's bad. He's not good at basketball. I heard a statistic that in his days in Houston, on his drives to the basket, he would drive past his defenders about 40% of the time. This season, he's down to 29%.
Mm-hmm.
He can't blow by guys anymore. It's a 1 in 4 thing now. Yeah. Like, more than likely, he's not going to beat anybody to the basket. So what do the Philadelphia 76ers do from here? Because, man, they it almost feels like they're in a worse situation this year than they were in last year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I just want to add this too. Like I said this, and I don't understand this at all.
Mm-hmm.
You trade away Ben Simmons, a guy who refuses to shoot the ball. All right. And I get that. All right. You got to at least, especially in these times, you saw the play against Trae Young last year. He passed it out. I mean, it's inexcusable.
Right.
But then you acquired James Harden, and the guy's 0 for 2 in the second half, takes one shot in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
I mean,
and the crazy thing is that he says the offense wasn't coming to him.
Okay. And I want to say this about James Harden too. And I don't think he's a bum or anything. Like, the guy, he still has talent. I just think people have to accept he just isn't what he is in Houston. And Joel Embiid said it in the press conference. Which, to be honest, I don't know if he should have said it, but he did say it. And he said, listen, this isn't the Houston Rockets James Harden. And I'm sure James heard that, but it's true. I mean, he lost a step. You just mentioned it, blowing past defenders. He doesn't have the same explosiveness he did at least in Houston. I mean, he had one of the most historic, if not, the most impressive season for a guard, probably of all time. I mean, it was absolutely ridiculous what he was doing in Houston. Comes to, Brooklyn, takes that third seat, or that, the kind of chilling in the background. Kyrie, KD show, I'll be the facilitator. When he gets traded to Philly, it's almost like he stayed in that mindset. Like, I'm going to just stay back, be the facilitator. I don't have to take shots. Tyrese Maxey is, for some reason, a better player than me, if that's what he's thinking. He should have been more aggressive. And it's honestly, it's funny looking at it now in Philly, because they're going to retain Doc Rivers. He's coming back for one more year. James Harden said he wants to come back. So he has a lot to prove. I mean, James Harden, at least at this point, is a fraction of what he was in Houston.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's true or not. Is it a mindset thing? Is it a mentality thing? Or is it just simply he is just out of shape and complete trash? He's going to have to figure it out for the sake of Philly, because Philly is booing them in wins, booing them in losses. Philadelphia's pissed off, and I don't blame them.
Yeah. Troy, what about you, man? Do you think it is a mental thing with James Harden, or do you think it could be, listen, we've seen other stars like Chris Paul, LeBron James lead this revolution of taking care of their bodies and transforming their careers and giving us longevity in the NBA that we haven't seen in quite some time. And on the flip side, James Harden, we've seen more footage of him partying, clubbing with rappers, other people in popular culture out late at night than other players in the league combined.
Right. Yeah, I think it can be a mix of both too, Sean, but not just James Harden, though. But I thought the Philadelphia 76ers as a whole just did not look very prepared that game. And they were lazy on the glass. I thought, lazy on the offensive end as well. Miami just overall was such the better team, and it didn't take anyone to say anything differently. Like, right, there's no argument that Miami was the better team. So I think as far as James Harden goes in that question, I think it can be a little bit of both, but I think with James, at least take the shots, right? You know that old quote, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Well, he only took 2 shots, so there's not much to go to that. But going off of what Jeff said, I think the most important thing that we can take from this is you trade a guy like Ben Simmons, who doesn't shoot the ball, for a guy who shoots the ball, and you get the same result. And not only that, but you deal away guys like Seth Curry as well, who are decent assets to that team, at least early on in the season. So yeah, if I'm Philadelphia, I don't really know what I'm doing next differently next year. But they have to do something, because if they don't, this will be their destiny next year too, is a second round exit.
Miami was great, and they really were. And Troy, I do definitely think that's important to highlight. But I also don't entirely think shifting the conversation there does fully justice of how bad James Harden was in this series. Let me read you a statistic. This is James Harden. These are his statistics in the second half for the entire series against the Miami Heat. This is just second half James Harden, games 1 through 6. 9 shots made, 11 turnovers, 32 points on 32 attempts, 0 for 2 in game 6. This man, in the 6 games that they played, in the second half, had more turnovers than he did shots made. On top of that, for the first time since his rookie season, his effective field goal percentage was below 50%.
Wow. Yeah.
Since his rookie season. And so, like, when I'm talking about, and don't get me wrong, Miami, they played an amazing series, and they made both James Harden and Trae Young, the two most heliocentric players in the league, look crippled.
And I think the pressure, that is something that's big because I mean, we saw little tiny flashes of, I don't know if the badness is the right word, but poor basketball. We saw little tiny stints of that in Brooklyn, but we didn't really think it was alarming. But then when he got to Philly, he started off pretty good. But then as the season got closer and closer to playoffs, Embiid looked different too, I thought. I know the injury too, but I think he had a downfall towards the end too, and I think it was more than just the injury too. I think both of them had mental deficiencies that were hurting their performance.
I think, in my opinion, towards the end of the series, I think between the injury, like the injury of Joel Embiid, like the multiple injuries he was facing, between that, losing MVP, and then looking at the team that he had on his side, and comparing the fact that he could have had Jimmy Butler on his team this entire time.
Yeah.
I think he said it in his press conference. He was very transparent, and both Jimmy Butler and Joel Embiid both talked about how they both wanted to keep playing together. However, you know, Jimmy Butler is like, but Miami's home. This is perfect for me. This is my place. This is truly where I'm meant to be, which is true. However, there is the what could have been, because as you guys remember, the Philadelphia 76ers decided, instead of bringing back Jimmy Butler, that they would bring in Josh Richardson. They did the sign and trade where they brought back Josh Richardson from Miami, which, guys, that's a really good player. Like, that's a solid. He could almost be as good as Jimmy Butler one day. And then you look at Tobias Harris, who they brought in on a max contract, which Tobias Harris, former Piston, when he was here, he was great. We enjoyed him. Great. However, I remember when we were having the conversations of when we were going to have to pay him.
Yeah.
And I remember us being very weary of giving him those max dollars. He goes to Philly, gets them max dollars. Perhaps the worst max contract in the NBA. I think Joel Embiid, I think as the series goes on, you're playing a really difficult Miami team. You have a broken orbital bone in your face, a torn ligaments in your shooting thumb.
It's essentially you and a young guard.
Yeah.
You and
you're
Tyrese
playing
Maxey
on you have a bad knee too. You're playing on a bad wheel. It's like, and your best player is a guy who's in his what? Tyrese Maxey's in his what? Third season?
Second season.
Well, no, he was in the Killian Hayes class.
Yeah, second season.
Oh yeah, you're right. My bad.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah, exactly. Second season. Yeah, it feels like he's been in the league longer. Like, just the guy's insane. But yeah, like, I think Joel Embiid, looking at this Philly situation, I know we've said this before, but guys, the process failed.
Mm-hmm.
Did it not?
It did. It definitely did. And it kind of, the Joel Embiid series reminded me a little bit of the Blake Griffin, where it's like back in 2019, where like he gives it all, but like it's no match for the opposing team as well as his surrounding cast as well.
Right. So, all right, let's put on our GM hats. We know James Harden's going to be back. So the scenario of we wouldn't bring him back is just not out there. Yeah, Daryl Morey's bringing him back. That's out of the conversation, right? Whatever dollars he's got to pay him, he's going to pay him. Mm-hmm. But what changes are you trying to make to this team? What are the things that Philly needs to focus on this offseason? I know one thing that's going to be on their mind. Reports have heavily suggested that, and I mean, it's just logic, that Tobias Harris is probably going to be traded, dealt somewhere. I'm imagining they're going to try to free up some max dollar money, or at least some form of salary cap room to do something. However, guys, whatever assets they had, they traded to get James Harden.
Yeah.
So they're going to, in my opinion, I don't know what you guys think, but they're going to be in a very difficult situation this summer to turn their roster around. But Daryl Morey, I mean, never rule him out, right?
they're in a tough situation. I mean, you talked about getting rid of the assets for James Harden, and even before that, all the moves, just their bad management in general.
Mhm.
Now you're to this point where you have Doc Rivers, you can't fire him because now you'd have pretty quick coaching turnovers. You fire him, you bring in Doc Rivers, now you fire him, you get another coach. Now they're like, all right, let's keep some at least consistency. We'll bring back Doc Rivers, James Harden. What are you going to do? I mean, you can't let him go. So I feel like this team is going to be very similar next year. The only thing I would suggest to them, and I've been saying this, they need leadership. They have no leadership on their team. I mean, James Harden's not a leader. Joel Embiid, I don't think is a leader. You got to bring in like Miami. When Miami did, and they went out and got guys like PJ Tucker, they get, they already have guys on the roster. Obviously, they've been there for a while. So you have to go out and get these types of guys. We talk about Patrick Beverley with Memphis. Every team just needs a guy that can be like, all right, everyone relax. I've been in these positions before, whatever. Because if you're talking about Joel Embiid being the leader, the best player, I mean, you're putting a lot on it. And then he gets injured. Like, nobody was there to step up for Philly. So I would suggest you need leadership. It's not about getting marquee talent. You just need good players, but get some voices in the locker room.
Well, they need some toughness too. They need toughness. They need defenders. Yes. They need toughness. Because I mean, you look at in my opinion, I don't think outside of James Harden, I don't think there's anyone that had I mean, obviously Tobias Harris just in general just hasn't been the player that they've wanted him to be. But in my opinion, there hasn't been anyone that's been so egregiously bad for Philly. Like, I mean, Tyrese Maxey, how can you not be happy with him? I mean, Danny Green, the injury was unfortunate. I mean, that the way that all went down, which by the way, I don't know, like maybe just Embiid going for that in general was just maybe a little weird. I don't it just the way that all went. It just looked like it could have been prevented. You know what I mean? I just can't help but feel that way. But here's the thing: they have Danny Green on the books next year for $10 million as well, and he has a torn ACL at 35. Talk about a kiss of death to your career. They have a lot of money tied up to this team, and James Harden, he has a player option this summer for $46 million.
Jesus.
And the worst part is that Philly might be hoping that he picks up that option, because if he doesn't, he has an extension that he is eligible for $270 million. $270 million. That would make him the second highest paid player in the NBA. James Harden isn't even the second best player on his team.
Yeah, no, you can't do that.
Yeah, it's not possible.
So
that's a real tough situation. It seems like Philly's handcuffed. I mean, they
are
hella
handcuffed.
They got to bring back James. I mean, it's just run it back.
I think dealing Tobias maybe for some kind of elite shooter. I'm blanking on any names who I think would be willing to do that.
I'm sure Miami would be willing to give up that Duncan Robinson contract in return.
Yeah. Tobias for Duncan Robinson, straight up. Let's do it now.
Who says no? Yeah, who says no? That's a great deal. Yeah, solid. But yeah, no, the Philadelphia 76ers are chalk. But Miami, moving on to the Eastern Conference Finals, have Jimmy Butler played really well going in the tunnel. They got Tobias Harris over me. I mean, this guy. He's a dog, but I mean, here's a guy. Here's a guy, but he was, believe Chicago thought you couldn't win with him. Minnesota traded him away, thought he was a cancer to the locker room. Philadelphia ultimately decided that they would be better moving on from him. And now he's in Miami, a situation where this team, for the second time in 3 years, is in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah.
Troy, I'll start with you this time. What makes Jimmy Butler so special? And why is it our instinct to count him out?
Yeah, I think it's our instinct to count it out is because he hasn't played in the finals before. I think that's
he has 2 years ago.
In the bubble.
Yeah,
in the bubble. Right. I'm sorry. Yeah, with the bubble. But I think yeah, I guess that argument's out. I'm so sorry about the bubble. But I think with Jimmy Butler, I just think he's not on the tier of Giannis and Joker and those guys. But he's pretty darn close, right? I mean, the guy can play. So I think for some reason we count him out because he's not that first ballot Hall of Famer. He might be a second ballot Hall of Famer, but he's not that first. And I think that's just an instant, target that a lot of NBA fans go to is like, well, he's not a Giannis, not a LeBron. He's not
he's not that top tier.
Right, exactly. So I think that's why. But what makes him special is I think his ability to facilitate the ball, but also score at will. I mean, the guy's a walking, talking bucket. And I think he can take over games too. I think that's one of the most important things about Jimmy Butler that I see is his ability to take over games, to impact games for his team. So I think, I mean, to me, he's a player that can really transform any team that he's on for the better. And I think we're seeing peak Jimmy Butler these past couple of years with Miami. But I mean, we even saw a glimpse of his stardom in Chicago, right? So to me, his ability to take over games is the most important thing, I think, to Jimmy Butler's game.
Well, I think we've seen it everywhere he's been. I mean,
even Minnesota, he had that too, right?
Well, even in Philly, even in Philly, like in the playoffs, their best success was in Jimmy Butler had the ball in his hands. Jeff, do you think it's just because this guy just plays his best basketball when the lights are brightest, when it matters the most, when the competition's at its highest? Because this guy's just an elite competitor.
Absolutely. And I love Jimmy Butler. I think part of it too, to add to what Troy said is, obviously he's not in that upper tier. One part of it is because he's not very flashy. Like the guy is he's so fundamentally sound. He can do so many different things. He can, be one of your best defenders. He can be your best offensive player. He can create for others. He's unselfish and he takes over late in games and he's a leader. I mean, he checks every box of a superstar. So I would put him as that. He's been the forefront of why this Miami Heat team has kind of taken over, made the next step. Because he's almost like whatever team Jimmy Butler's on, the entire team just consumes his mindset. Like that's what I'm talking about with Philly. I'm not saying you need. Hopefully that'd be great if you can get Jimmy again. You never will, but you need a player like that just commands everybody. And Jimmy does that. Miami's the perfect fit for him. He strives in that I don't want to say chaos, but when you have turmoil, man, the guy's a dog, and he'll try and he trusts his teammates. That's what makes him so great. Because when you think Jimmy's going to take over, boom, Tyler Hero hits you with a big shot in the fourth quarter. So
he really dominated the Hawks. I know that's 2 seasons ago, but like he dominated the Hawks.
Well, yeah, even just the Sixers in game 6 alone. I mean, 32. I mean, this guy had 32 points in a closeout game. He took the reins and said, "I'm taking us home."
And he leads by example. That's exactly what you do. As a leader, you lead by example. You don't talk all this in the locker room and then go out and lay an egg. He goes out and gives buckets to people, especially late in games, and then it's like, all right, see, I'm doing it, so why aren't you doing it? That's what I love about him.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, I think of that image of Jimmy Butler, the famous, probably the most famous image from the bubble, which was when. Which was like towards the end of the finals, that one game that they won where he was just leaning over. He was just exhausted and so tired. Like that's just who Jimmy Butler is. He's going to give it to you. He's going to give it all of his energy until he just simply can't anymore. And so in my opinion, I know I have not been super high on the ceiling of Miami in these playoffs. However, Jimmy Butler is just, he's special. And he just deserves his place in the game and deserves to be among the top 10 guys in the game because he just is, just as far as what he can do. When it comes down to this time of year, regular season basketball, he'll be consistent, he'll be stable, he'll be good to go. But playoff time, all bets are off.
Yeah, I don't think he even really cares that much into stats. Like I think he just wants to win, man. Like he doesn't care about whoever people rank him and then be like, he just wants to go out and win. That's what I respect. And that's why Jimmy Butler in the Miami Heat, listen, and I agree with you, Sean. I don't think the ceiling, I thought whoever wins this game 7 tonight is going into that finals. But Miami, they'll kill you by group effort. And if everybody's playing well, they're a dangerous team. Especially defensively, they can lock up anybody in the NBA. I mean, it's impressive.
Yeah, for sure. Now, moving on to the other series that was concluded over this past week, the Golden State Warriors and the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, gentlemen, I do want to start with Memphis because they made this way more competitive than it should have been. Like Memphis had no business being in this game. They had no business beating Golden State by 50 the other night. But first of all, let's just talk about Do you guys think the Memphis Grizzlies could contend as soon as next year? Because it looks like if Ja Morant was healthy, this series could have gone very differently.
As far as compete as in a Western Conference Finals team, absolutely. Ja Morant is even gonna maybe even take a bigger leap next year. I mean, I think so. I really think we can even see a better Ja Morant next year.
Well, and even not just him, Desmond Bane.
A
lot
of young guys.
Yeah, it's the guys that they have that watching this team. It was Dillon Brooks, Desmond Bane, all these different guys that were stepping up and hitting big shots.
Mm-hmm.
Like these guys can score.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they got a good
Brooks
coach
too.
I want to say this. They got a good coach too. Like I like Taylor Jenkins a lot. So that's the thing about the Memphis Grizzlies is they hit their peak. Some would be like, all right, they overachieved this year, of course. But that tells you something. For such a young team to win, 50 plus games, that's a lot of momentum heading into next season. And if they could go out and get, honestly, like you said, they have so many young pieces, you might be able to bank on these guys. Like Desmond Bane was balling. Like he finally, I know he had the back injury, but once he healed up and got feeling better, he took over the last 2 games. So we'll see with Memphis. I think if Ja and Draymond mentioned this too in his podcast that without Ja, they're like just from in terms of a ball usage standpoint, because when Ja's there, he has the ball so much in his hands, but when he's not there, it's harder to guard these guys because the ball's moving around all around the perimeter, kind of like how the Golden State Warriors do. And if guys are hitting shots and they're killing the Warriors on the inside like they were. That series, I mean, they check all the boxes. I mean, Memphis has shooting, they have size, they have a dynamic point guard. It's look at what the Dallas Mavericks are doing with Luka. I mean, you see it now with these guards. It's crazy. They just need a little more talent, and boom, they're gonna make a run.
And even Tyrese Jones is ball dominant guy too. That can. I thought he filled the role very well without Ja. Sure, they weren't the same team, but a guy like him to step up who hasn't gotten crazy minutes all year and to perform in the playoffs like he did, guys, future's bright in Memphis.
That's how you know too if you're a great coach. I mean, with Monty Williams in Phoenix, when one guy's out, Cameron Payne steps in, boom, he's playing well. Like you said, Tyrese Jones, like it's a compliment. It really is.
Yeah, and the thing is that now knowing how competitive this team is already, without even going out and making aggressive moves to put your team in that position, like you just developed it in house. The thing that's nice for this team now going forward is they have some room to play with. You know what I mean? They have some decisions they can make. They have some salary coming off the books. They don't really have a whole ton of salary tied up just yet. I mean, guys, here's the crazy thing. They haven't even had to pay Ja yet. Like that hasn't even happened yet. The only guy on this team that's getting paid right now, and even then it doesn't even kick in till next season, is Jaren Jackson Jr. So, obviously you're going to have, it looks like they have, Dillon Brooks has 1 year left on his contract. Looks like, Tyus Jones is really the one that they might have to part ways with, just because he's going to be a guy that a lot of teams will be interested in, like a truly good backup point guard. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like Tyus Jones is a guy that, they might not be able to keep. However, I mean, this team, who's to say they're not in the Bradley Beal sweepstakes if he decides to become available? Who's to say that this team couldn't go out and make a trade and pull a trigger on a guy like Donovan Mitchell and pair him with Ja Morant, or even Rudy Gobert with Ja Morant?
Yeah.
I mean, how dangerous would that be? You know what I mean? Like, just here's the thing: the well is open for the Memphis Grizzlies. And here's the other thing: they could also just decide to run this back and just do the exact same squad, because this team, if Ja Morant was healthy, very well could have beaten the Golden State Warriors.
Which says a lot, because look at who the Warriors are right now.
Yep. Now, I mean, let's talk about who the Warriors are right now. The Golden State Warriors, first of all, for everybody that forgot, Jeff, can we take our victory lap for a second? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes. Let them know.
Game 6 Clay, baby. Game 6 Clay is a different animal. Oh, Klay Thompson, he's just not the same guy anymore. This guy is shooting inefficiently to begin the series.
Blasphemous.
Guys, did you really forget that Game 6 Clay was a thing? Did y'all really forget that Klay Thompson in Chase Center, in his home arena, that this is where this man feasts? Guys, listen, for everyone that wants to apologize, the people that came to the courthouse telling us that Klay Thompson's falling off, this is your place to come apologize.
Yeah.
But I mean, in addition, I think one thing that we saw throughout this series, I think we all anointed Jordan Poole.
Yeah.
Maybe a little too quickly in that Denver series, because he struggled mightily throughout this series. But I mean, good player. But
another guy, can we please talk about Andrew Wiggins, guys? He came off game 6 too. Yeah. Really, really strong. And I think if he adds more depth to this team, because he's really been playing great all season. That's just be honest. But he's been playing good. I thought this past series, and even the Denver series too, he had some good games. So I think if somehow, some way, the Warriors could beat the Suns, well, the Suns have to beat the Mavs first. But if they could beat Phoenix, I think Wiggins would play a mighty role in that if that were to ever happen.
And those two guys, Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins, are both due for an extension coming in the next year. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. I think they're going to try and re-sign both, but they I don't know how they have the most cap space in the NBA apparently. I mean, look who they're paying.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, Bob, you got to be willing for the rest of Klay's career, or Klay and Steph's career to pay that luxury tax. You know what I mean? Like if you want to really maximize on having Steph Curry, I mean, because listen, guys, after the war, I mean, they're going to be good for a while. They got Jordan Poole in the system. They're going to be okay. However, I mean, let's be honest. You got to capitalize on Steph Curry's prime. And looking and to your point, Jordan Poole is going to be due for an extension. Andrew Wiggins is kind of like that supercharged Harrison Barnes role, where you just got, like, you know what I mean? Like it's like what Harrison Barnes needed to do, but then like he can also do more. Like he's also way more athletic. So like it's kind of like supercharged, like what Harrison Barnes used to be for that team. Like that's a perfect role for Wiggins. And like there's going to be a lot of guys, or a lot of teams, I should say, they're going to be very interested in him this offseason. He definitely, I could see a team signing him for more money than they should. I could definitely see like the Knicks giving him like $150 million contract. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I mean, yeah, if Andrew Wiggins is on, this team's a whole different level. Now, what I will say, and this is going to be their biggest difficulty and the biggest thing they're going to have to overcome with whoever they face this next series. With no Gary Payton Jr. on this roster, this team's terrible defensively on the perimeter. Like bad. And Memphis just wasn't good enough to capitalize on that. But Phoenix and Dallas very much both could capitalize on that.
Yeah.
So going into this next series, you know, Golden State, it's very interesting because whoever they match up with, it's going to be a very even series, in my opinion. However, if there is a weakness, it's that defense, because man, defensively, it's just not it.
It's especially interior defense, because my God, when they put Steven Adams back and they started giving him minutes when Ja was out, they picked apart. They out rebounded the Warriors. So I think Phoenix coming into the series, hopefully this is my pick to win. I don't know if Mavericks could very well win, and we're having a different conversation. But if Phoenix wins, I think with DeAndre Ayton, they're going to give him problems. They're going to give him problems with DeAndre.
I could see Ayton just abusing the Warriors down low.
Yeah.
I really could.
Oh, and Ayton's been so good. And like when Phoenix is winning, it's because of Ayton taking over and playing that next level, even on the offensive end too.
Yeah. No, and I think they're going to put Steph Curry a lot in these pick and rolls with Chris Paul and Devin Booker, and with DeAndre Ayton, and it's going to be tough. You're either getting a lob up top, a mid-range shot that's probably going in, or just a dump off for a DeAndre Ayton dunk. So either way, it's going to be. Whew.
Well, and here's the thing, guys. Let's not. Phoenix is more than likely going to win this game tonight. I'm pretty confident. However, guys, Luka Doncic is in Game 7, and Luka Doncic.
He's scary.
Here's the thing: no matter what, next series, between those two teams, Luka Doncic would be the best player in that series.
Yeah, absolutely.
And which is crazy to say because Steph Curry's unreal. Jeff, I see you contemplating that over there. I know it's
okay. Let me rephrase that.
But individually,
current
though,
Steph Curry.
Current Steph Curry, yeah,
Right.
all-time Steph Curry. I mean, yeah, but current Luka would be the best player in the series because he affects the court just on a different level.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
Like in my opinion, I think Luka is very close to getting to top 5 player in the world status if he keeps playing like this. Because my lord, the Phoenix Sun. First of all, I do want to say I've had this theory on why the Phoenix series, why Chris Paul has looked like a shell of himself. Guys, do we not remember who's the coach of the Dallas Mavericks?
Jason Kidd.
Jason Kidd. Who knows who perhaps like the only other guy like Chris Paul we've seen in the league in the last 20, 30 years as far as like mentally how he approached the game like a freaking chess match. Now don't get me wrong, Jason Kidd, deplorable human being. However, like what he knows about basketball, like what he can control, like I think defensively, he's just been sending the freaking farm.
And obviously, with being his coach, I mean, this is very obvious what I'm about to say, but like he's in Luka's ear all the time about this stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Go ahead. I cut you
off. 100%. But like even just schematically, just strategically, like as far as like what he's doing on a coaching standpoint, like Chris Paul came into the league around Jason Kidd's prime, or particularly towards the end of his prime. They know each other very well.
Right.
So in my opinion, I think Jason Kidd probably knows better than anybody how to make Chris Paul uncomfortable. And so I think that's been a big factor this series. And Dallas, I mean, no matter what happens tonight, as a recording, whoever's in this conference finals, they're both very, very realistic finals teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I want to say, didn't every home team win in this series?
Yeah. So far, an away team has not won. So it's been, that's the other thing about this series. It's kind of been a bummer. It's been blowouts every game.
Yeah. And it's been the home team does the blowout.
Yeah. And so that's going to be the big thing. Like if Dallas wants to win, which in my opinion, I think they have a very uphill battle to do so. The X factor is going to be guys like Jalen Brunson, like Spencer Dinwiddie, like their supporting cast to step up because, you know, Luka, I know Luka Doncic, I know what Luka Doncic is going to give me tonight. But on the other hand, I know what Devin Booker is going to give me tonight too.
Right. And that's why I want to say this too. And this is always a good quote in the NBA that obviously role players play better at home. They always do. So when you look at the Dallas Mavericks and you look at the Phoenix Suns, I mean, a lot of these guys, besides their stars, are role players, and a lot of them are relied to shoot 3-point baskets. Like Dallas Mavericks, they're 4 and out, and they get Luka. He's dumping off the Bertans, hitting threes in the corner. He's got Spencer Dinwiddie pulling up now, Reggie Bullock. You got all these guys. They're not going to be on the road. And then you have the Suns who double their shooting percentage, like it seems like at home. I mean, it's ridiculous. Devin Booker's a way better player. So that's why I feel like Phoenix is not going to let this one slip. Like Jay Crowder, these guys are going to come out just smoking tonight. That's my prediction. And maybe it does come true, but the Suns at home are just different animals. And I feel like Dallas and all the role players they rely on, they're going to struggle. And that's the reality of it. But we'll see. Maybe Bertans comes out and hits like 7 threes. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that
Finney Smith, guys.
Finney Smith too. That's another one. Really he had 8 threes that one game.
Yeah, what the heck has Dorian Finney-Smith been smoking, man? That guy's been coming out on fire.
Yeah.
Like unreal, dude. Yeah, there's just from top to bottom on this lineup. There's just been a lot of guys that have just been stepping up. Reggie Bullock, I mean, he's just been vintage Reggie Bullock. Just seeing him do it like he's been doing his entire career, just on a crazy level in Dallas. But again, I mean, I think Chris Paul in his home, I think Game 7, I think he knows that I think Chris Paul knows this is his last chance at getting a title. Like this is his best chance that he's had at getting a title. And so I have a very hard time seeing Phoenix losing that game. However, I do want to talk about, I do want to allot some time and talk just about how good this Boston Milwaukee series as a whole has been.
Yeah.
I know the game will be decided by the time it comes out. Game 7 is tonight. But guys, game 6 in Milwaukee. The Boston Celtics down 3-2. They lose in such heartbreaking fashion with the Marcus Smart collapse in the final minute. Jason Tatum. 46 points on the road to keep their season alive. Guys, Jason Tatum's a superstar. We're there.
Yeah.
We're there.
Yeah.
Are we not?
He's knocking on the door. I think he's just about there to have
he knocked the damn door down, Jeff. He kicked the door open.
Okay, listen, if you're gonna have performances like this, and I think he tied Paul Pierce for an all-time career high in the a game 6 for the Boston Celtics as a franchise. So if you're in the echelon of the truth, I mean, you're doing something right. And he's only 24 years old. He's only going to get better. So yes, I would agree with you. I think he's a superstar. Now, if you really, it's tough because you got to go through it, and we can make a superstar and star list. But if you're just thinking off the top of your head, Jason, of course, is. I mean, he's the best player on the team. They go through him, and to go out and battle Giannis. I mean, think about it. The Milwaukee Bucks, from their perspective, your best player had 44 points, and he wasn't even the leading scorer.
44 points and 20 rebounds,
and he was not, and he wasn't the leading scorer in the game. Think about that.
The two players that we just talked about, Giannis and Tatum, they put on arguably one of the best duo performances on opposing teams in the past 5 years.
One of the best in NBA history, in my opinion, just as far as the duels that we've seen in an individual playoff game. Unreal. It was it honestly felt like an old Western shootout in a way, where it was just like those guys were just going at each other's throats the entire time. But then it was also Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart towards the end of the game too. Like when Milwaukee tried to get back in that game, the difference was Boston this time said, no, this one's ours. They weren't letting that happen again.
And if we can see that type of resilience from Boston, which it would probably be easier for them to do that again at home, then I predicted Milwaukee. I predicted Milwaukee in 5. Can you believe it? But Boston is the better, I think, overall team as far as depth. As far as depth,
they have been. Yeah, for
absolutely.
Sure. Yeah.
But are you hopping off that? Are you hopping off the Milwaukee Bucks?
That's going to be the thing. It's going to be interesting to see whatever happens. I mean, obviously, by the time this comes out, we will know.
I'm staying with it.
I can't hop off the train, guys. Giannis
okay, all right. That's my guy.
Yeah, but there's no chance, no matter what happens, there's no chance tonight is an instant classic. Obviously, everyone at home, you'll already know what happened in this game. But, I mean, man, I just... Has this been one of the best playoff series in the past 10 years? Because in my opinion, it's been one of the best I've ever seen. It's incredible. So
I would say this. I think that, let alone, this is why from the very jump, we've said this, whoever wins this series, because you knew going in, this is going to be entertaining. I mean, you had, one of the best defensive teams in the NBA going up against the best player in the NBA with, a surrounding cast that without Chris Middleton, we understand this, but even without Chris Middleton, I mean, Milwaukee Bucks have been fighting like hell. And both teams have been winning on the road. So that's what you love about series like this, that every game you tune into, no matter if it's on the road or it's at, home for whatever opponent, you don't know who's going to win. That's the crazy part. Like
absolutely.
The Mavericks and Suns series, you're like, all right, at home, all right, Phoenix is probably going to win this, whatever. Now this series, I was shocked, that at least Milwaukee wasn't more competitive, in game 6 at home. Like that really shocked me. But honestly, at the same time, I'm like, that's how this series is going. You know what I mean? Like that's just what it is.
Well,
remember game 4? Remember how fun game 4 was too, with Horford and
like Horford going off.
Yeah. Well, and the crazy thing too, like even Milwaukee, like we talk about like how great they've been over the past couple of years. This Milwaukee team's not the Milwaukee team of last year. Like with Chris Middleton on the sidelines.
Well, yes.
This is a depleted Milwaukee. I mean, obviously, but even just from the depth as well, just some of those guys, I mean, obviously Bobby Portis is still out there, but you're not getting the same Brook Lopez that you've gotten. You have Serge Ibaka's there, but I mean, otherwise, that's going to be the tough. That's the difficult thing is for Milwaukee, even like let's say as of recording, like that they've made it past the one thing that's going to be really difficult for them down the stretch, and why I think Phoenix, if they were to face Phoenix again, what would be so difficult? I just think Milwaukee, as of right now, like, their depth has been a major question mark.
Yeah.
So, I think that's gonna be. I think that would be a big thing as well. But yeah, man, there's just the thing right now is that as we keep having conversations going forward, almost every team that's remaining, you could make a legitimate case that they could win a championship.
Yeah.
And that's the crazy thing, is that, in the past, it's always been like, oh, well, we know who's winning, but not the case anymore.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that's why when we say we can have predictions and we could say, well, I see, like personally, I predicted, I said it'd be a rematch, Milwaukee and Phoenix, but it doesn't mean Miami can't get there and win. I mean, it doesn't mean like these teams are just as talented to get all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. You're good enough to win the championship. It just depends how locked in you come in. So with Miami, we'll see. But still, I think, like you said, the even playing field is what I love the most about this playoffs. It's been difficult to predict at times, but I think adding the play in, it just makes everything so much better. It really does.
Absolutely. Now, Troy, before we get to from Mount Rushmore, I did want to mention I started reading and I kind of thought I kind of had this idea of like I would love like over the summer and the off season, either we did like a book club where we read like a prominent basketball book and like we talked about it, or like we like would go back and like watch like old finals and like deep dive and reflect on those. I started reading Bill Simmons' Book of Basketball last night, and I'm not sure if you guys have read it.
Oh, yeah. Do you see this, buddy?
Oh, yeah. Oh, heck. Oh, my gosh. That thing's massive. Holy crap. I might need to buy it. I bought it on my phone. I read I read the first chapter last night, which talks about which talks about Bill Simmons' story of how he got into basketball, and like he literally like went from his mom almost like his dad wanted to buy a motorcycle with his tax return. It was either that or season tickets to the 74 Celtics. And then from there, they like if you don't know like how season tickets work, like you're essentially you're inherited into your seats. And then like as like better seats come available, you get the chance of that, all that kind of stuff. Essentially, his family lucked into multiple times getting his seats upgraded to the point where he had the best seats in the Garden at the peak of Larry Bird coming into the franchise, and then just had season tickets and the best seats in the Garden throughout his entire career. And just the front row seat that he had to that era, and also just all of the stories and everything in there, just in the prologue. I was just, man. And so, I'm not sure if you've read that entire book, but I'm starting it myself. I'm super excited to go through it.
No, I'm like halfway through. I never finished it, but I remember the prologue you're talking about. It's great. Like that's why I love it. It's a great book. If you haven't already,
is it more stories of the game, or is it like it's not strategy? It's not like
so it's not like it's kind of like a lot of argumentative takes, a lot of retelling of history, a lot of like it's really the way that he explains it is that he went into it with no format. And essentially was like, I'm going to write about everything I know about the game of basketball before I forget. And it's essentially like, in like the prologue, it's really about like the 70s and 80s Celtics. And it's about like a lot of those teams, like from like the Bill Russell Celtics, but then like talking about like how he grew up with those teams and the things that he remembers, like the stories of the Garden, but also like how he really learned the game growing up with seeing Larry Bird play. And like how he grew up in the era of like one of the greatest athletes in the history of the game. And then like just he sets up how he's just going to talk and I know he goes into like his like greatest players and like why it is the way they is. I know he goes into everything from what I can tell. So Jeff, you're halfway through. You can give a better description than I can.
You nailed it. You nailed it, right? I mean, he ties a lot of these things back into his personal experiences. So that's why I'm saying if you're a fan of him and him as a sportscaster, you're going to love the book because it's from his point of view and a lot of things, his takes. And I didn't disagree with a ton of them. I mean, but
also it's just a deep history on the game of basketball too. Yeah, just a deep history. So
deep dive.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna start reading a lot more basketball books just because I was like, I remember like I just was like I don't like after college I was like I don't like reading, but then like I was like I was like, oh, like I actually like forgot this book existed, and now I'm going through. I'm like, man, I'm hooked. Like I
No,
want to start reading everything.
I feel you completely. I got the book. I got this book because I saw it and I read like the first couple pages in the store, which I know you're not supposed to do, but I was like, hey, I'm gonna check this out before I read it. And
Yeah.
the minute I started reading it, it didn't feel like a book to me. Like when you read it,
Yeah.
it feels more like he's just talking. Like
Yeah, it
that's
felt like
why
you
it's
were
so
in the
great.
stands almost. Like it was
Yeah.
awesome. Like so just
Yeah, absolutely.
he tells this story of like there were like because like you forget like some of the crazy stuff that happened in like back then. Like he was in the garden in the 70s, and there was a story where I forgot who hit the shot at the end, but somebody hit a game-winning shot for the Celtics, and then they stormed the court, but there was 1 second left on the clock, and it's like everybody was it was like they started the game super late, so everyone was super drunk and delirious. Everyone in the garden was crazy. They went to triple overtime, so we literally called it the drunkest game in sports history. Like it was apparently, yeah. There's just so much in that book. So, Troy, I'd recommend you picking that up. But also, I'll talk to you. We'll talk off pod or something because over the summer I think it'd be fun going through and like watching like classic final series or like
we could go through that book itself if all three of us got it.
Yeah, 100%. It's a huge book is the one thing. So maybe we can find. I've always wanted to read the Jordan Rules too. That's the next on my list. So maybe we'll have to put together a list and maybe at some point we'll develop something. But that'd be pretty fun. So, yeah. But with that, Troy, it is now time for us to take a trip from Mount Rushmore. Troy, last week we talked a little bit about the Warriors and just how they got to where they're at now. What do you have for us this week, my guy?
Yeah, definitely more of a fun entertainment. And when we think of worst teams, like we think of the teams that don't win 20 games and stuff like that. But I have a deeper spin on it. All right. Worst teams to have made the NBA Finals. Now, it's tough with this one because every team that makes the NBA Finals is good. But there's a couple of teams, and we're going to make a cap on this. It's going to be since 2000. So we got 21 options here. And I would hope that all of the teams that we name never won the championship, right? I mean, it's the worst teams to have made the finals. So I'm going to start with the most obvious one. This team probably shouldn't have been in the finals. They got a little lucky with a nice LeBron performance, but the 2007 Cleveland Cavaliers.
That was the first one that came to my head too.
Yep.
Anderson Varejao, a very young LeBron, Danny Gibson, Gauskas, like a good team. But a finals team, they got swept by the Spurs, and it wasn't even close. They beat us in 6. They beat the Pistons in 6.
LeBron beat us, all right.
LeBron beat us in 6, and
LeBron went to the finals that year.
Went to the
Cleveland guys just joined him.
Yeah. So,
like, let's just call it the way it is. That team was dog. They were absolute bums. They were absolutely in the modern NBA. They would have been a 7th seed. Like
right.
Yeah. Like this was really that was the year LeBron had the amazing performance in the Palace in Game 6. Went off. You know, like that was when he became the king. It was all that stuff. But he met a San Antonio Spurs team that there was no suspense. That Spurs team was winning the finals. They were simply better than them in every single way, and LeBron couldn't do a damn thing that entire series. So yeah, no, that team's definitely up there. Another one, I that comes to mind, the Orlando Magic.
2009, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Now I want to say they were a good team. They were not a bad team, but that wasn't even the best iteration of that Magic team. Yeah. And in addition, there was no stopping Kobe beating Bryant. Like it was it was just one of those finals where like I never truly believed Orlando had a chance to win the championship.
Yeah.
Like the Lakers were just the better team. And like it was one of those things where that in my opinion, I remember just watching that Orlando team and Dwight Howard and all, like it was always like, oh yeah, but like what can he be offensively? Like he's a big question mark, all this kind of stuff. It just they never truly just like, they played a lot of really good basketball. They overcame LeBron that year. They did a lot of things, but at the end of the day, when they got to the finals, it just kind of felt like they were just happy to be there.
Mm-hmm. Really, they got lucky against Boston
Yeah.
in the Eastern Conference Finals, and they got lucky against Cleveland. Because remember, that was probably the best LeBron Cleveland team before leaving for Miami. It was his last year in Cleveland. No, second to last.
Yeah, second to last. Yep.
But still, his best year in Cleveland before going to Miami. And and that was the number 1 seed. And they lost, or Magic beat him in the second round, and Magic beat Boston. So really, they got 2 kind of lucky Eastern Conference opponents, and then and they got annihilated. But they still won a game against the Magic. I think it was game 2 they won.
You mean the Lakers?
Yeah, the Lakers. I'm sorry. Yeah, the Magic beat the Lakers 1 game. But they were very much not the best team in that Eastern Conference by far. They.
I wouldn't go by far, but they certainly weren't they certainly weren't the best team in the NBA. That's for sure.
Well, I would say they were the 3rd best team in the East. And
so that doesn't make them not the. So that doesn't mean by far if they're the 3rd best team.
Fair. But still, I would have picked Boston and Cleveland.
Oh, for sure,
miles ahead of them. Yeah.
Can I throw in a notable mention?
Absolutely.
Oh, so this is we got 2 more teams to pick. So is it not one of these?
It's a Mount Rushmore. Yeah,
Mount Rushmore.
Oh, okay. I'm throwing up one. Okay. All right. This is mine. 2011 Dallas Mavericks.
But they won the championship.
But listen. I'm gonna read off the roster to you. All right, and I'm gonna read off the final statistics. Dirk Nowitzki, 26 points a game. He won Finals MVP. Jason Terry, 18 points per game. Sean Marion, 13. Everyone else, 7 points per game. So listen, I'm going to tell you this right now. That team should not have beat the Miami Heat. We can agree on that. That's one of the worst. But I'll give this, though. That's a big moment for Dirk's legacy, because that shows right there like why he's such a beast. But come on, you can't tell me that team with Jason Terry as your number 2, and you're going against the big 3 of Miami. That's got to be a notable mention.
If we made a Mount Rushmore of worst teams to have won the finals, I think that would be our clear number 1. Yeah.
Well, I think people would put the going to work Pistons on there too, which I don't like, but they would. Not us.
Not us though.
Not us. Not on this pod. No, they're on the best teams to win it. But no, and then in my opinion, I think a team that's worthy of closing out this list. The 2017-2018 Cleveland Cavaliers.
Dude.
First of all, let's just be frank. Both years Kevin Durant was a Golden State Warrior and they faced the Cleveland Cavaliers in the finals. No shot. Yeah. But what made that second year so special was, first of all, the fact that team got swept in the finals. Second of all, they were really only competitive in the finals for game 1. And then from there, LeBron punched his hand. J.R. Smith existed. Kevin Love was nowhere to be seen.
J.R. Smith ran it back.
that team was a travesty, man.
Yeah, no, Sean, you're absolutely right. And I guess the debate is, what's the better Cavs team, 2007 Cavs or 2018 Cavs?
Oh,
I don't know, man. They're both
18, 100%.
Don't even have to blink.
Right.
Yeah.
And an honorable mention, guys. 2001 Philadelphia 76ers. It was kind of Iverson took them there, kind of thing.
Not kind of. He straight up took them there.
Yeah, very similar, I think, to this current Memphis Grizzlies team. But I would even say this Grizzlies team is way more has more depth than that Sixers team, and they got bounced in the second round, right? So to go to the finals and to win a game 1 against the Lakers, impressive, but still one of the worst teams to have made the finals.
Yeah, 100%. There's been a lot of years where, again, part of why I'm so grateful to be in the league, be a fan of the league now, is now there's actually suspense in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Whereas in years past, it was all right. Well, how many games will it take for LeBron to face the Warriors in the finals? You know what I mean? It was Cleveland, Golden State for so long. However, now we're in this age where we have all these rising stars, all these crazy players. We don't have LeBron James in the NBA finals or in the NBA playoffs, and I don't think we've even noticed.
Yeah, right. We haven't.
Because it's been so competitive, which for a league that was so dependent on guys like LeBron have been dependent on guys like LeBron for so long. Yeah, great thing. So, we're gonna have that in Detroit for years to come. Man, it's just Guys, it's such a good time to be a basketball fan. It really is. This is my favorite time of year. The lottery, conference finals are coming up. Man, by the way, one last thing before we end the pod. Have you guys seen the new trophies for the conference finals? Have you seen the NBA revealed the new trophies?
I did.
They are trash, and we got to show them for a second. So the NBA, for those that don't know, they made new trophies for the conference finals. So let me show you the complete list. Let me show you the complete. Oh, great. It's and of course the image I found it on was from Fox News. So thanks, Fox News. But let me share my screen real quick. The NBA has these new trophies in place for the conference finals right here. So these are the conference finals trophies. But then they added conference finals MVP trophies.
Wow.
So for the first time this year, there's going to be conference finals MVPs. Now, I do want to throw one. I want to set one precedent on this podcast. We are never going to talk about a conference finals MVP, and if that means anything, right?
Can we give a first round MVP, second round MVP,
Yeah,
and then we'll go to the conference final MVP, and then we'll do
not to sound like a boomer, not to go like, oh, this is a participation trophy, like all like this kind of stuff, but like, guys, we can't just add this into the mix now, and we can't expect it to mean anything, right?
We could give a rat's ass.
Because even like we just literally made a list of worst teams to have made the finals. I mean, could you imagine if we made a list of worst teams to make the conference finals? Like if you're playing a quote unquote very obvious weaker team in the conference finals, you're going to annihilate them, right? And I don't know if that's worth having a trophy.
Yeah.
And aren't they naming it the Magic Johnson or something about Magic Johnson in the West and then Larry Bird in the East?
I mean, if that's the case, I'm not entirely sure, to be honest with you. If that's the case, that's dope. But I'm not sure if there's a name, but if there is, then I can check. But yeah, all right. So NBA conference finals.
You should just make it the damn Isaiah Thomas Award. He beat them both.
Woo!
Put him as the his face.
Right, I like it. Oh yeah, it is. Yeah. So it's the Magic Johnson and Larry Bird Award. Conference Finals MVP. Okay, in that case, if it's named after Bird and Magic, I'm all for it. That completely changes my tune. They're no longer trash. However, but hey, how about this, Sean? They don't change legacies. How about that? Yeah, what I was about to say was whoever wins the trophy, it's not going to put them on the level of Larry and Bird. Nothing. No conference finals MVPs. Now, they did add some cool stuff to the Larry O'Brien trophy. They made some tweaks. So the trophy, if you can't tell, they did change the look of it. It does look a little different. So hold on, let me share again. So this is the up-to-date Larry O'Brien trophy. They added kind of like a swoosh, like netting down here. Obviously, this is like a little more outline. It says, Larry O'Brien trophy down here. They also apparently etched NBA Finals right on the bottom there as well. Yeah, man, looks pretty icy. I mean, I'm not complaining, man. That's a pretty hot trophy. So, I mean, hey, they're doing it right over there. The Larry O'Brien trophy has always been an underrated trophy, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah, can't wait till we get more in Detroit, but that's a whole other conversation for all other different day, because this is From Half Court each and every week. Troy, Jeff, and myself talk about all things NBA basketball. If you like that, sure to like this video. Subscribe to the podcast. We are on all podcast services that your heart desires, so be sure to give us a follow there and leave us a positive rating. You follow Troy on Twitter at TroySturkey44, Jeff at Jeff IFRady, and myself at Sean Half Court. Be sure to be tuned in. Thank you all who tuned in to the Woodward lottery stream that Jeff and I will future actively be on. We're really looking forward to that. And for those that tuned in, it was a great time. But with that, I want to thank y'all so much for tuning in. We will catch you next time from Half Court. Be sure to subscribe.